We now conclude the 15th letter, continuing about the godly soul and the fact that it wants to, or its nature is to cleave to God. Now we speak about not the emotions of the soul. In the previous class, we speak about the three intellective faculties that are the spheres of Chabad, Chochmah, Bina, V'das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge in the divine. And now it becomes powers of the soul as God breathes into our soul a part of Him, which is, in this instance, what we're discussing, the Chabad element. So, Chochmah, we translate it as wisdom, but we're going to use the word Chochmah. It's the source of intelligence to apprehend God and God's wisdom and His greatness and His attributes, the way He conducts the world. In other words, Chochmah, being it's the power of self-effacement in intelligence, there's self-effacement in Hod, in emotions, and there's a self-effacement in intelligence, or self-abnegation, and that's what Chochmah is. See, Alter Rebbe explains actually in other places, Koachma, the power of what? In other words, when you say what, it's something beyond you. What is it? What is that? Well, you're only asking what is it if you don't know what it is, because you don't get it, you don't apprehend it. Chochmah is the source that we can apprehend God. Now, how can you apprehend God? Well, because of the nullity, the self-effacement, the self-abnegation of the power of Chochmah, it gives us the capability to be able to. Otherwise, we wouldn't. Right? Otherwise, we wouldn't. So it's the source of that capacity that we could apprehend. Now, the true apprehension of God's greatness and His attributes really takes place in Bina. The capacity for it is in Chochmah, where it actually formulates or formalizes itself is in Bina. Bina is understanding, because Bina is now taking the seminal point of Chochmah and elongating it, as Chochmah is the Yud of God's name, Bina is the Hey. Now you're taking it across, and so that's the breadth, the length, and the depth of understanding, apprehending godliness. Now there's taking something that's abstract and lofty, and now seeing how it goes across, meaning we can see how this idea has many components to it, ramifications to it, and then how we can bring it down, this idea of our apprehension of God. Because remember, this is about the godly soul, so therefore it's about cleaving to God. Therefore, in the intelligence is about apprehending God, comprehending God. So in Bina, so you have the breadth of it, which is how this, the ramifications and how this applies in so many places along the line. When we bring it down, we're able to bring it down and draw it downward from a lofty, abstract idea to bring it down in a way that it becomes more earthy, so to speak. And then the depth, that we plummet the depth of it. And what's the whole point of intelligence? Divine it. The godly soul's divine intelligence. What's the point of it? What's the point of it? The point ultimately is that we bring it into emotions, into a love and awe of God, that it begets an offspring, and the offspring is the emotions, the emotions of love and awe. That's ultimately the point of intelligence, or here in divine intelligence, that the godly soul apprehends. And in that, there are two levels of awe. The lower level is merely of God's presence. Merely, that's quite lofty. That God is present, that He's real. That He's real. The higher level of awe is not only that God is present, but He is so present that I don't sense myself. For me, standing before the Rebbe is at least a metaphor of this idea. When you stand before the Rebbe, you lose your sense of self. So much so that, some often would be people can't get out the right words to say to the Rebbe because they are stammering out of the sense of awe. They're feeling their smallness and the greatness of the Rebbe. Not because the Rebbe is making you feel that way, right? But you sense and apprehend with your intelligence who you're standing before, that it doesn't mean just that the Rebbe is present, but in such an overwhelming manner that you are bashful. And that is the higher Yira Ilah, superior level of fear, that we feel our insignificance. Right? Again, not because the Rebbe is making us feel that way, or not because we are insignificant, not because we're a sum total of nothing. No, that's not what it means at all. But think about it. Before God, are we not? Right? Now, we are in our being, but not in our purpose and in what God created us for. Right? And then here, what we're trying to give an understanding and appreciation is the godly soul's capacity to become aware, apprehend, comprehend godliness in such a manner that it brings a real feeling in one's heart of love and awe. So the awe that we spoke about right now was the lower level is that God is present. He sees what we're doing, right? And because of that, it's like someone walked into your room, and all of a sudden, you move your jacket and you straighten up yourself. Why? Because there's the presence of somebody there. So you instinctually act differently in the presence of a person. So likewise, we act differently in the presence when we know God is there, right? Like this morning, I was kind of tired, slichas last night, and I was a little tired, and I just thought that, God is seeing. So that gave me the motivation to behave differently. Got out of bed quicker, right? Got out of bed even though I was tired. Get out of bed quicker. That's the lower level of presence. But overwhelmed by the presence to such a sense that you are, you feel your smallness. That's the higher level, right? Now, also in love. There's avarabba, a great love, and a lower level of love. So the greater level of love is that your pleasure and desire is only in God. That's a very lofty level, not something we will achieve so quickly, right? But it's there. The lower level of love, avazuta, is that I naturally have a love for things of this world because of how they appear. So the food looks very appetizing, but the love of God means that I recognize that the food is really being animated by God, and the external appearance of it is not its true reality. So I transfer the love of of the material or the external for the deeper sense that there's that this is really God animating it, and it's really allows me to have a connection to Him. That's a lower level of love. Pretty awesome, that kind of love, but nonetheless, this is of the godly soul, and as I mentioned earlier, I don't think we're too often attuned to this, and we're going to be motivated by these things. But it's important that we know about it, so we could at least, with the awareness, allows us to at least use maybe our nefesh maskelis, our rational soul, in a healthy way. But we'll unpack that more. Then now, so what's the bridge between emotions and intelligence? How do we bridge? We're saying that intelligence is the parent of the offspring called emotions, because when you meditate, think about apprehend, comprehend anything godly. It will bring something to an emotion in the heart. So how does it get there? The bridge is das. Das means bond. Even though we had yesod, which is also a bond, but that's an emotional bond. This is a bond of intelligence that brings it to the emotions. So what does that mean? It means that there's such a clarity in one's mind of the realness of God, whether His presence, whatever it is, apprehension of, comprehension of, that it's so real. Right? Just like physically, this table, I see it, I feel it when I hit it, I hear it, right? I get it with my senses, and therefore becomes real to me. So Das has the capacity in our minds for the godly soul to make godliness so real for us, so true for us, so that it feeds our heart. And that's what Das does. Right? And again, from the godly soul we're talking about. We spoke about Das previously also when it came to the Nefesh Maskelis. And here it's more direct in its application. And when you take away the bridge, you take away the emotion. So we need the bond, we need that bridge of Das in order to bring about the emotion. And in Das there's two levels, Das Elyon, Das Tachta, and the lower level is through an effort that we bring through an understanding of Bina, through the understanding of Bina, we bring an emotion, a love and awe. And then there is through the Chachma of our soul that comprehends in a manner of nullity, of self-abnegation, that it brings to Das Elyon. I don't know what that means, to be quite frank with you, because that's really that's a level of tzaddikim that I'm not so clear on, to be quite honest. Okay, let's unpack this. And then questions we'll have, please. Engagement. So, again, this is the divine soul versus the Nefesh HaMaskelis. So we learned previously. The Nefesh HaMaskelis, the intelligent soul, also, it comes to recognize that the intelligent soul recognizes that there's a truth about God. It recognizes that there's a truth and it wants to have that truth. Then godly soul doesn't recognize a truth. Not that it's not true. Its motivation is it wants to cleave to God. it wants to be a part of God because that's where it comes from. And that's its nature. So therefore, it just wants to apprehend, comprehend divinity, godliness, because through that, there's a connection made, period. That will, well, it will lead to the love and awe of God that soul naturally has, and now is being revealed. Even though the soul naturally has it, doesn't mean it's revealed. That's our work and effort that we need to reveal it. So the motivation here is merely to cleave to God, as opposed to, again, the Nefesh HaMaskela is, it's not merely that God is the only reality and so on. It comes to an understanding because it's an intelligent soul. So it has the positive and negative elements, and right, because it's klipas noiga, it's a mixture of good and negativity. So it comes to an appreciation that there is a truth of God. So it's coming to something. It isn't something. That's the difference. Whereas the godly soul is something. What is it? A part of God. And therefore all it wants is to cleave to God. That's what it is. Right? That's why it's unique to the Jewish soul. Nefesh HaMaskela is a very lofty way that you can attach yourself to God. And a human being, human beings have that. Here, what we're saying is something that is unique to the Jewish soul, this godly soul, that it's not from a means to an end, but it's an end in itself. Because the Nefesh HaMaskela, the intelligent soul, perceives, and in its perception, it can see godliness, it can see not. It hacks away the negativity, again, because of klipas noiga, so there's negativity there, and it focuses on the godly, or on the good, or on the responsibility that it has, and the sense of what's true, what's not true. The godly soul, it knows the truth. The truth is nothing else but God. So the approach is it's a subtle difference, but a major difference. One is a means to an end, one is an end in itself. I suggest that what we are more, what's more, real in our lives is we're going to be hopefully not being motivated by our animal soul. I mean, we will be motivated by it, but not to allow it to be the sole conversation piece in my life, and just to do what's pleasurable for me, to do what's makes me feel good. The Nefesh HaMaskela is motivated about to be good. To be good. I gotta be good. Hey, that's my responsibility. That's what God put me here to be good, not to feel good. Now, by being good, hopefully it's not about feeling good at all. Because the feel good is just giving into the pleasure that I'm seeking. It doesn't mean you feel bad, by the way. But you're not motivated by the feel good. You're motivated to be good. That's Nefesh HaMaskela said, understands, I gotta be good. I gotta be good. The godly soul is not motivated by being good. I don't need to be good. I am good. Right? I am godly. It's not motivated by that. It's just motivated, wants to connect, cleave, that's all. That's a very lofty thing. That's why in the first part of Tanya, chapters 18 and 19, the Alter Rebbe speaks about the godly soul, that it's basically, when is it going to be revealed? Well, when is the question, but giving up my life because I'm being coerced into another faith. That's when there'll be But on a daily basis, is that really what's our motivation? So why are we learning this? Because we need to know that that's a truth, a deeper truth about us, and that even when we're not living it, doesn't mean we don't have it and not a part of it. And, we can introduce a little bit of it into our lives. Absolutely. Okay, enough me talking. I want to hear everybody else talk and share questions, comments, thoughts. So let me first see here on Facebook before I lose the feed. If there's any questions, I see Yehuda has. The Shema is part of cleaving to Hashem, meaning the 10 spheres are one, and we mimic the attributes, we become one with Hashem. Our Judaism.Chabad being the general, and the Guf being the soldier, the 7 spheres carrying out the commands. Yes, the Shema is definitely a way to cleave to God. Absolutely. Also to fulfill what God needs. John, can one achieve avazuta without first achieving self-abnegation? The lower level of love, well, so let me ask you something. Let's be frank. Okay, John? Let's be honest. And, if I love my coffee, is it possible to love God then? In my coffee? No. But if I have a love for God and I drink my coffee in order that that coffee can give me a perk, so I could daven better, to be more awake in my Tanya learning. So if I love coffee or I love this food, so I can't love God at that moment. It's either I'm loving the external aspect of the sizzle in the steak that I love, and that's or I'm loving it because this is a way that I can connect to God. Eating this food gives me a connection because I recognize that God is the one who's animating this food, giving it vitality, giving it reality, giving it existence. Right? So when I when I can do that, that's I it's hard, and therefore necessarily we're loving God. Not necessarily. Okay, Michael, please share.
Shalom Aleichem.
Aleichem shalom.
Okay, so I would like to start with I now know that. I now know why Jews yearn to be Jewish, if it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because we have this tendency to cleave to God because we have a godly soul, right? Mm-hmm. And we want to be part of Gan Eden once more, right? And there was that story that Rabbi Friedman once said in one of his speeches with the princess and the father. I think that was really well here. I also have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
We were talking about being overwhelmed by God. When we are in the presence of God, we act differently, right? Could that be what happened in Gan Eden, in Bereshit, with Adam?
Yes, so very good. In the Garden of Eden, Gan Eden, the presence of God was very palpable and real. And so much so that the mixture of good and evil was in one tree only, and complete evil was in only in the serpent. The rest was all holy. God's presence was so palpable and real. In their sin, all of a sudden, God isn't real. So much so that they want to hide from God because they're feeling embarrassed for what they did, because God is no longer palpable and real. And therefore they need to cover themselves up. They need to cover up their sin. So that's what happened in Gan Eden. So ever since then, of the sin, so now the world is a mixture of good and bad. And that's the nature of the world that we need to engage in, right? And in that engagement, there's either from the nefesh maskelis, as we learned, from the intelligent soul, how we engage, and how I suggest most of the time we will engage. And then there's from the godly soul, on how that engagement takes place in the world. Does that clarify?
Yes, it does. And I also had one more question, if that's okay.
Sure.
My bad. What happens if someone lets their animal soul take the helm, besides failing to do God's work, what they needed to do, not what they want?
What happens is we got to do tshuva. I mean, we do. Listen, let me, as we've said many times, either you face your stuff, or you're gonna face your stuff, or you're gonna stuff your face. Either that's what happens in life. Either you got to face it and deal with it and work on it and grow, or you're just gonna stuff your face and you're just gonna get bigger and bigger in full of negativity, full of things that will just bring us down more and more. And it'll be a gradual going down and down, and all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, I'm really at the bottom of the abyss, and how did I get here? It's because we stuff our face. We stuff our face doesn't mean just with food. It could be with Netflix. It could be with just any kind of pleasure seeking that we are just looking for, rather than face our stuff. Face it, deal with it, and work on improving. God's not expecting that you're going to become overnight, we don't believe in born again, because you're not born again. All you're doing is coming to a more authentic self, deeper part of you. And that's what tshuva is, to come to a more real part of you. Your feelings are not your authentic self. That's not your authentic self. That might be your authentic feeling in the moment, but that's only an authentic feel, and it's not even an authentic feeling, because authenticity means that it needs to last. Otherwise, it's not authentic. So the fact that today I feel like this doesn't make it authentic. It makes it your feeling in the moment, but if you're going to live your life on your feelings, that means you're not living your life with your nefesh maskelis, with your intelligent soul. And that doesn't mean you negate your feelings. It doesn't mean that you don't recognize your feelings and aware of them. But they are not the master of you. Nefesh maskelis, godly soul, those are the things that we need to work on, to face it with that. That is real. That is a game changer. Just to put that into our lives, into our consciousness, our awareness, will definitely change things. Yehuda says, can non-Jewish souls reach the same level of cleaving the Jewish soul can reach? So I don't want to get too off on the discussion right now because it's not the topic. I brought it up just so we can have an appreciation. So so from the not in the same manner. It's not in the same manner. But that being said, a non-Jew can be connected to Hashem. They don't have to be Jewish to be connected to Hashem and follow the 7 Noahide laws, universal laws of humanity that the Torah spells out. And because it's spelled out in the Torah, so a person can achieve a righteousness before God in accordance to what they were created for. Absolutely. But there's something unique. And just briefly, any other faith or religion or belief, if you believe it, then you are a member of that faith group. If you don't believe it anymore, then, in your estimation, you're no longer a member of that faith group. But by Jews, go up to a Jew and ask them, do you keep kosher? So, nah, that's antiquated, You don't have to worry about trigonosis anymore. We have refrigeration. Oh, that's... do you fast on Yom Kippur? No, that's my ham and cheese day, that's no, come on, we're fasting, not to have the pleasures of life. We have a world that's meant for us to have the pleasures. So you at least believe in God. Mondays and Thursdays maybe. So you say to that person, you're not Jewish. Fundamentals of Judaism you don't even believe in. That person probably would slap you across the face and say, I'm as Jewish as you are. Now, how could you be as Jewish as a person who is totally committed to Judaism and a person who doesn't abide? So the answer is, that person's right. You're not Jewish because of your observance. You're not Jewish because of a dogma that you buy into. You're not Jewish because of a belief system. You're Jewish by virtue of a Jewish soul. That's unique to Judaism. No other faith group has that concept. You're Jewish because of the soul. Well, that's a uniquely Jewish soul. That's what makes you Jewish. That divine soul, that Jewish soul. So that's unique to Judaism. It doesn't exist anywhere else. And therefore, everywhere else, everything is a means to an end, because that's the human condition. And as we were speaking here about the divine soul, it's not a means to an end. The cleaving is not in order to gain something. The cleaving to God is not, let me get the brownie points so I can go to heaven. Let me, strap myself up over here and take some innocent lives over here so I could get 72 Virginians. But they made a mistake. They know how to spell properly. It's Virginians. They're getting Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and the like. That's all a means to an end. Everything is a means, because that's the human condition. That's not the godly soul. Godly soul is not doing good, out of a recognition that, good is the right thing, and it's what God needs me. And, after all this, and this won't bring to fulfillment. No, it's not no fulfillment over here when it comes to the Jewish soul. It is that way just because that's what it is. Period. And therefore all it wants is to cleave to God. That's why I said we are not going to even though that is what defines the Jewish soul, it's not something that we will be revealing in our daily activity that often. We should think about it, know that it's there, but know at the same time that we're probably more motivated, if hopefully not by our animal. I mean, our animal soul will try to motivate us, but hopefully the at least the nefesh hamaskelis, the intelligent soul, that will be there to guide us. All right. Yeah, you like that, Aryeh? Yeah. You had a question. I don't see the question marks first. If you could do that, that'd be great. All right. Any other questions? Any other comments? Anybody here on Clubhouse? Please. All right. Amazing. Beautiful stuff. We will continue, of course. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kadesh, Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and pleasure to share with you, Tanya. A reminder, tonight, 6:30, we'll have Torah Studies class. Please join us. That's on Zoom and in Chabad ZK Facebook page. And also 12:45, we have Rambam, Maimonides. Come and join us. All right, folks. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank